Yes, so everything about karma or karma is past and future oriented. That in the present moment, we can see that karma works completely differently. That you do something good and you get immediate benefits right here, right now, and you do bad and you get immediate benefits right here, right now. I'll use the example of shoplifting. That let us say the payoff of the karma of bad results from bad karma happens in the store when the guy's got the product in the pocket. It doesn't happen in the parking lot when the police stop him. It happens right here in the store. The bad thoughts, the unwholesome thoughts, like Walmart charges too much money, so they owe me this one. Or whatever the rationale is. But also the fear of getting caught is right there immediate. The fear of getting caught before getting caught. And so, in fact, shoplifting has major disadvantages right in the present moment. And not only that, but it builds up the karma for the next time that we do it, and having that cause and effect. So, in fact, when we understand karma as cause and effect, then we can get out of the silly ideas of long term. That in fact, in Sutra number 117, it talks about right view. The whole point is right noble view, which is an investigation. But he first talks about two kinds of views before that. One is wrong view, and the other one is the view that's called ordinary right view. Now, I can sum that up in wrong view is, I can do anything I want to do and get away with it. And one of the examples in the old scriptures, and I think even in the sutras this is mentioned, that a guy can be on this side of the river, Ganges River, and kill 500 cows. And then he can cross the river and kill 500 more cows, and there's not going to be any result of that action. Well, now that's crazy. You think there's going to be 500 cows sitting on the shore without the men who own those cows watching after them? Do you think that this guy, once he starts killing cows, I mean, even with an AK-47, they're going to stop him? He doesn't have 500 bullets generally. But in the old days of the time of the Buddha, you had to do it the hard way with whatever instrument you had in your hand, an axe or a machete or something like that. You don't think that the people who own those cows are going to stop him before he gets 500 of them killed? So anyway, that's one of the examples of wrong view, that you can go and do anything you want to do, and there's no retribution, or that you can get away with it, or you can slither away. Now, within Christianity, this is called forgiveness or mercy. It's a get out of hell free card. That in fact, you probably heard the story that, if there wasn't a God, then people would go and kill and rape and murder anybody that they wanted to. Well, I think it's Amun Ra, one of the big atheist lecturers on the lecture circuit. He says, well, you know something? I do go out and kill and rape and murder any and everybody that I want to. I don't want to do that. All right. But the point of it is that there are no atheists on death row. Only Christians.
Do they not convert?
Well, they did convert. That's the whole point, is that they want forgiveness, right? But they would go out and kill again and then get forgiveness again. But in part, Amun-Ra's point is that when you have a religion that offers mercy and forgiveness, that's actually permission to go out and do it again. To where a more atheist point of view is that you're responsible for what you do. You can't get away with it. Now, on the next point about ordinary right view, they have an answer to, I can get away with it. And their answer is, oh, no, you can't. We're going to hire police. We're going to hire military. We're going to get your uncles and your aunts and the school teachers and everybody to dress you down. And if none of that stuff works, we're going to go get a priest to send you to hell. Right? You can't get away with it. That this is actually what the old law of karma is all about, is that if you do good deeds, you will eventually someday, way out in the future, get your good results. And if you do bad actions, the karma machine is going to dig you up after 300 years in the grave just to kick your ass. That's the mentality that they have. But Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is talking about karma in a completely different context. He's talking about it actually in the sense of habits. That if we have bad habits, we'll continue to do those bad habits, and then we'll continue to get the bad results of those bad habits. An example of that is complaining. That if we complain because we don't get what we're due, we don't get our rewards, and we complain about it, that sets us up to continue to complain. And it winds up then that the whole society is out there complaining and blaming. And that one monk I've just heard recently was complaining about Westerners are always complaining. He was, by the way, a Western monk. And so this is what we mean about the karma, is that the doom for doing bad actions is that we're doomed to continue to do those bad actions. That's something like the story in the Greek mythology of Sisyphus, who was doomed to roll a stone up a hill. And someplace along the way, generally close to the top of the hill, he would lose control of the stone. It would roll back down to the bottom. Now, what Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and I would probably do is once our stone rolls back down to the bottom, we'll go down to it and sit in its shade. We don't have to keep rolling that stone back up the hill. That's just an old habit. That's our karma. And that's the way that we can see life, is that we are doomed to continue to do things over and over and over again and get the same bad results over and over and over again.
Mm.
And that the whole point is that we have a choice, if we can see what we're doing, to take a look at what we're doing, to wake up, take a look, see that what we're doing is not gaining us any benefit. I'm really surprised in that sense that I have heard stories and had evidence of people who have been practicing a noting style for 30, 40, 50 years, and they're getting nowhere with it, other than thinking that they're experts at meditation because they've done so much of it. But they haven't gained any value. In fact, that's basically what you were saying before when this call started, was that you were doing the same thing over and over again and not getting any results out of it. But you are doomed then to continue to do that over and over and over again without recognizing that we've got a choice that we can change it. And that's what the teaching of the Buddha is about. The funny thing, though, is that it's so profound. Everything is topsy-turvy. I mean, when you have a whole society of complaining, then you would expect that every child would grow up learning to be an excellent complainer. And every child is trained. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, in this case, he will complain and complain and complain, because that's how he was trained.
We seem to be able to suffer anything.
Right. Suffer on and on and on, because we don't see that there's nothing really to complain about.
Yeah.
There's really nothing to complain about at all. If we can look at things closely, we can see that everything is actually all right. Right this moment, you are safe, secure, comfortable. And if you look at it closely enough, you're pretty well satisfied. And people are doing that and still complaining anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a revelation to realise that I'm allowed to be satisfied now. That's why I ring you. You remind me that I'm allowed to be satisfied now.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That's why I ring you, because you remind me that I can be satisfied now.
Right. That's the whole point. Yes, we need to keep reminding and help each other and remind each other over and over again that we have a choice. We either have our karma or we have our choice. Which are you going to choose? Well, you have to choose that every moment, because if you don't choose no karma, the default is karma. The default position is always dukkha. And because that's the default position, you're going to be in dukkha unless you can remember to come out of it and sustain being out of it. Wow, that's so hard for most people to get. So, continue on. Continue doing. Continue to remember.
You know, it's that's what a lot of the practice is now. Is to sort of see the dukkha, and then I go, well, I'm not chasing that. I'm not chasing that anymore. There was a strange obstruction before to have overcome, which is I would wake up and see the dukkha, and I'd go, well, I'll deal with that dukkha later. I'll chase this one. But I can see, oh no, I'll have to do it now. Now, everything.
Right. Right. That's in fact giving in to the old style. Oh, well, I'll change later. An example of that is the guy, maybe Homer Simpson goes to the doctor. In fact, this happened with a comedian named Fluffy. I don't know if you know him or not. Very heavy dude, overweight. And he goes to the doctor and he says, Fluffy, if you don't go on a diet and start losing weight, you're going to be dead next year. Okay? But Fluffy's already a grown man. He's been eating his whole life and he continues to eat. It's hard to make that change. We really have to get that wake-up call. We really have to get slapped in the face to say you got to do something. But the problem is that he needs to be slapped in the face every time he opens the refrigerator door. Even the door that we open in the mind. We need to keep getting that reminder over and over and over again. And that's why we want to develop the skill of sati, the skill of remembering. You've got a choice right now.
Is there some level of discernment as well? Because I feel a lot of people suffer, but they don't recognize it as dukkha necessarily until it becomes so bad.
Right. Well, you could say that there is a phrase, in fact, called rock bottom. that was used long before some Buddhist salesman came up with the phrase dark night of the soul. But both of them are the same thing, the rock bottom. So the question is, where is your rock bottom? Like in AA, for instance, they talk about it in the sense that people who are, drunks, who are established drunks, until they do hit some rock bottom, they're not going to really go for AA. And that one of the main points about AA is that they do not want you to associate with your bar-fi friends anymore, because you'll go back into the bar and says, oh, well, this one drink is not going to take me back to rock bottom again. Right? Until they do it several times and recognize that every first drink leads to another and another and another until they do hit rock bottom. So one of the programs that we're on, or one of the training processes that we have here, is that investigation to recognize that danger, to recognize that dukkha, and to recognize, actually, I'm changing my rock bottom. My bottom is no longer a rock, it's just board. It's carpet. Now it's a mattress, right? And so we change our rock bottom to where, whoops, I'm not going to go there. And so we continue to make that improvement because our skill level is increasing. We don't have to go all the way to the hard rock, most difficult bottom. We've been there, done that. And so now we're setting our standards differently, so that it's not the rock that's the bottom. It's, or let us say, severe dukkha. It's the slightest little dukkha. That's my rock bottom now.
I think you said somewhere about becoming the master of your pile of crap. So like, you sit on top of it. I know where that goes. I'm not going there again.
Yes, the way that it's stated, I heard, was everyone is a emperor of their own pile of dirt. The question is, are you going to be buried under your pile of dirt, which would be kind of like a rock bottom? Are you going to be clawing your way out of the dirt, which is normally meditation practice? Or are you just going to come right out of it and sit on top of your world? Because it's an attitude. Buried under your pile of dirt is an attitude, the victim's attitude. Clawing our way out of our pile of dirt, that's the victim's attitude. Sitting on top of the world, that's a winner's attitude, a successful attitude.
It's almost counterintuitive in this culture.
Pardon?
Anyway. It's almost counterintuitive, even in this culture, at least, anyway.
Well, I'm not sure what the word intuitive means, but we can substitute other words in the sense that it goes against our normal way of thinking. Or another way of saying it goes against our karma. It goes against our habits. It goes against the way we were taught. And that's what people call intuition. It's not to intuition. In fact, intuition would be to intuit, which means to go into it and see it. So real intuition would have us making changes. So you've actually been lied to about what the word intuition means. Normally, the way that intuition is used is in the false sense of doing what you've always done, expecting it to be the way that you got to work really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's a struggle. And that struggling, by the way, is dukkha. So meditators who are practicing hardcore Dhamma are actually creating their own dukkha. When the whole point of the teaching of the Buddha is to come out of our dukkha. There is a sutta, number 22 in the Majjhima Nikaya, called the Simile of the Snake. It's got a couple of other similes, and it's got some good information all through it. But the simile of the snake is a simile of one who is determined to catch a snake should do it properly. And the way that the Buddha talks about it is to get a stick that's got a fork at the end of it, a little fork, so that you can put that fork over the back of the head of the snake, so that then you can grasp it by the head. But in fact, when I was in high school, I worked for the highway department. I had been dealing with snakes my whole life, but there they actually told me and showed me with examples, because we ran across snakes. What I was doing was survey, and that we were survey two kinds of things. One is where we're going to put a new road, and number two, where we can get sand, clay, the materials that we're going to make the roads from. So we were in the back alleys of the the county that I was in, right in the middle of the PD swamp, that part of South Carolina where there's a guy named the Swamp Fox. But there's a huge area of South Carolina that's swampy, lots of rattlesnakes, lots of cottonmouth, a lot of black snakes, poisonous snakes. And the way that I was taught was that if you're going to handle a snake, you got to grab it by the high part of the throat and put your thumb as hard as you can on the head of that, on the top part of the back head of the snake, so that he cannot open his mouth. And yet I see on the internet all kinds of places, normally they're, because of in Florida, they're catching a lot of pythons. And that they'll grab them by the throat with that great big mouth wide open. It's like that they're doing it this way and the mouth is open. Where the right way to do it is to close it down, to keep that mouth closed. Okay, so this is what the Buddha is talking about, that almost everyone grabs the snake wrong and therefore is in danger. And everyone grabs the Dhamma wrong and therefore they're in danger. That if you grab the Dhamma by the tail, it's going to turn around and bite you.
And that's what people refer to as the dark night.
That's why they will have a dark night, is because they've gotten bitten and they're poisoned by the snake. Another kind of disease of that is that complaining about everybody else is not giving you the benefit of being a good Dhamma dude. So you're complaining because you're not getting in respect, or that you don't get the gratitude that you expect, or anything like that. So complaining, another one would be taking the precepts as a, let us say, a set of rules that you have to follow, and when you don't, you feel bad. So there's a lot of different ways to get bitten by the snake of the Dhamma. So you have to grab it by the head. So what is grabbing the Dhamma by the head is that we see what the Buddha really teaches is dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. You've got to get that snake, dukkha, by the head so that you don't have dukkha, nirodha. Oh, excuse me, that you don't have any more dukkha, that you stop it, you put a stop to it. And this is what we then refer to then as the right effort. Right noble effort is to put a stop to the dukkha. The right noble effort is to put a stop to unwholesome thoughts.
And that's not really touched upon in Western Buddhism.
Not hardly at all. Not hardly at all. That in fact, Western Buddhism looks a whole lot more like Western psychology in a cult format.
Right.
Here's another way that people get bitten by the Dhamma snake. Going to retreats, paying high fees for doing retreats, and then not enjoying the retreats. Wow, to go to retreat. Oh, wow, I'm going to retreat. I'm going to go do a Goenka retreat, and I don't have nothing to do, and I got no place to go, and I can just sit there and have happy thoughts. But almost no one comes out of Goenka retreat joyful. In fact, the joy that you do see is on the last day of the retreat when it's finally over. Oh, what a relief the retreat is over. And so retreats are another way of getting more dukkha, not less. And so Western Buddhism, I think, is actually a failed experiment.
Right.
But also, luckily enough, I see that the real message of the Buddha, joy, cultivating joy, practicing joy, is beginning to make a little bit of an inroad.
Right.
By the hundreds now, people know. I've seen several places that were very strange. One of them, I won't go into great detail. Have you ever heard of mindfulness-based stress reduction?
Yeah.
Okay. Major source of dukkha. The
Really?
story is that I was when I was a monk in California, staying at the Watt in south of San Francisco in Fremont, very close to Stanford University. There was a Stanford University dude, a professor, who, and you know, Stanford's very closely associated with MIT, and John Kabat-Zinn, who did the mindfulness-based stress reduction. Okay, so that was my connection. And I decided that, no, I don't want to join their organization because they want me to join them. And I've already got more Dhamma than they've got. But they were doing, in fact, what you could say was that they were doing Goenka light. And the lightness of it was that to do the scanning, the body scannings, they would lay on the floor. So here's the point. That just a couple of years ago, I did an interview with someone, forgotten who it was now, and go to the YouTube to watch the video. And it had a commercial right in front. And of all things, it was John Kabat-Zinn of the MIT Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And what is he talking about? He's talking about joy. It blew me away. Wow. He's made a change. I wonder where he heard that. I wonder where the threads got around, you know. But eventually, I think that cultivating joy is going to make its way somehow or another into Western Buddhism, rather than the struggle that I see people into now. And that struggle comes from desire. They want so badly to come out of their dukkha, they're willing to do anything, including a whole pile of new dukkha, in order to. And what are they left with? The old dukkha and the new dukkha. Because they don't have the way of dispelling the old dukkha, they're just creating new dukkha. But it'll get out eventually.
Yeah,
With good guys like you.
I feel fortunate to have found it, but I think of all the people that are probably still in that real realm of dukkha.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of the problem is that many of the people who claim to be Dhamma teachers didn't get good training in the first place. They picked up a whole bag and maybe a book or two of stuff about Buddhism, but they didn't get the McDonald's secret ingredient. They didn't get the secret sauce. And so now they're out there selling their own versions of hamburgers, calling it McDonald's, but it's got no sauce. Not juicy. And so this is the way that we have to practice, by remembering to do that. To stop with the old karma, stop doing it the way that we were told to do. That in fact, I can see that most people in the West are caught between two extremes. One extreme is the extreme of feeling entitled, complaining about not getting what's due them, what they're worth. And the other extreme is working too hard, becoming somebody's useful idiot, working too hard by someone who is more spoiled than they are. So this whole idea you've heard about spoiling our children, well, the Western child has been spoiled in these two ways. He's spoiled by being entitled, but he's also been spoiled by thinking that his efforts are going to get what he deserves. He's got to work really hard and then get the benefits of it. And it doesn't work that way. That's in fact never comes around. Guess what? That's the law, the old law of karma. You work really, really hard and you're going to get the good results that you're expecting. Guess what? It doesn't happen. You do not get the benefit of your hard work. And not only that, but how are you feeling when you were working that hard? That's the important point, is that while we're working all of that hard, trying to get what we think is due to us, we don't have that joy even then. We don't have the joy of accomplishment of doing the hard work. We have instead the expectations that our joy will come when we get paid.
And the ends justify the means, we seem to think.
Right. The ends justify the means, exactly. And guess what? Within the context that we're talking about, there is no end. All we have is means. Do you have skillful means? If you have skillful means, then you'll just be in the means all the time. You don't ever get to the end. You don't ever get a reward at the end. Your reward comes right here, right now, if you can remember to practice. But that old mentality of the end justifies the means, or you get what you pay for, or good action gives good results, all of those teachings about karma, including working hard and then having a wonderful payday, guess what? That's just another watered down version of Christianity. You be a good little dude for Jesus, and then he'll forgive you of your sins and take you to heaven.
Is that attitude tied to magical thinking at all?
Is that actually what?
Is that attitude tied to magical thinking at all?
Yes. Karma is a magical process. That's why I call it the giant karma machine in the sky. Because that phrase points out that there is no such karma machine in the sky. And if you put eyeballs on that karma machine and maybe a white beard, you can call it God, or maybe a sky daddy or something. And that's just all magical thinking. If there is a God, here he is. I'm breathing God. I'm surrounded by God. I'm in the paradise of God. I'm already here. It's not eyes in the sky or somebody else from, let us say, a camera from the corner of the room watching you do it. All of that, by the way, has the magical quality of it is that it has always to do with outside. And the reality is always inside. The question is, how big is your inside? Is your inside big enough to develop what you used to think was outside? But now all of it's really on the inside. So having that duality of inside and outside, that's magical thinking. Thinking that you are in that duality and stuck in it, that's also magical thinking. But the reality is that this is it. This is all there is. Right here, right now. Really, the past is gone and dead, and the future is yet to be. They don't actually exist. Only here now exist. Can you remember that? Can you remember that all you've got to practice is right now? Can you change your mind, change your attitude, change your mental state, change your language, change your feeling, change your posture right now?
Yeah, it sounds like the only sanity to me.
Well, most of the people in our society must be insane. Doing the same old karma, the same old thing over and over again, expecting a happy result. And in fact, I've even heard it stated in the sense of, well, I put in 30,000 hours of meditation. As if we're supposed to congratulate him. Where's your joy, fella? Are you waiting for 35 hours of meditation, 35,000 hours of meditation, and then the karma machines come waltzing in with Shaktipat and his bowl and all and sprinkle you with rose water, and now you're going to feel good?
Yeah, that's exactly how I thought it went.
And the reality is that if you want to feel good right now, because that's the only time that you'll ever feel good. And why wait 35,000 hours of meditation? That's wasted time. You can feel good the first hour. Practice feeling good the second hour. Practice again and practice, and pretty soon feeling good is easy. Make it easy.
It's
Remember to
definitely
practice.
becoming, yeah, it's when there's uncomfortable situations, the instinctual reaction now is to breathe deeply and say, this is all right. I can do this now. It's becoming more and more effortless.
All right. Let me look at a statement that you just made. You used the term uncomfortable situation, right? That's kind of complaining and blaming the situation for the feeling that you have of being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And in fact, situations are just situations. The question is how do you feel? And that you're saying, well, I'm feeling uncomfortable because the situation made me feel uncomfortable. Well, that's just an admission that we're out of control of our feelings. The situations make me feel. When are we going to start feeling the way we want to feel instead of waiting for a situation? That in fact, that brings up the point about that sometimes in all of these many thousands of hours of meditation, occasionally somebody will have what they call a meditation experience. And then they feel really good and they want to go tell everybody about it. And the more they tell it, the bigger it gets. And someplace they'll cross the threshold, oh, I had a past life experience, or now I'm an arahant, or now because of that experience. While secretly deep inside they want to go have that experience again. And they don't know how they got it the first place, so how are they going to go and get it a second time? And so now we're stuck with the desire for having an old experience. And that happens in much of the kind of practice of noting, is people try to repeat an experience they've had rather than recognizing, hey, you're having an experience right now.
Hmm.
What are you experiencing right now? It's your choice. Are you going to have the experience that karma brings? the old habits, or are you going to experience something new? This is why I tell the students, you can feel any way you want. If you could feel the way you want to feel, how would you feel right now? Can you feel good enough? Can you feel successful at being good enough? So that's one of the things that you can start to play with your right noble effort, is to start experimenting with, well, how do you want to feel? And then start to feel that way. Your choice. The old choice is not much of a choice, is to let the experience, let the situation determine how we feel. Uncomfortable. So, this is why the Buddha would recommend that we go off into seclusion, because the seclusion is actually creating our own situation. Can you go and create your situation in seclusion so that you don't feel uncomfortable in this situation? You can feel marvelous in this situation, get into the habit of, and therefore start developing the karma of being joyful and happy in a situation that you created. And then when you're out there in situations that you didn't create, you've got better choice of being joyful rather than being demanded by the situation to feel uncomfortable.
So really, we're cultivating the first jhana in seclusion and then sort of bringing that into the world.
Mm-hmm. And meeting everybody with a smile. And in fact, if you create yourself with a smile and you live in life and live the world with a smile, you're creating the situation out there in public.
Right.
So you can create your own situations. You don't have to wait for the situation to create you.
Because we're just interpreting our experience, really.
Mm-hmm. And guess how we're interpreting? According to our old karma. So the choice is yours. If you can remember that you've got a choice. What a relief it is to know that you've got a choice. Every moment you've got a choice. Every here now that comes by, you've got a choice. If you remember, you've got a choice. Isn't that marvelous?
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest relief is the unburdening of magical thinking, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the magical thinking that the situation determines how I feel. For in fact, no, you feel according to an old habit of feeling. And you're already in the habit of being uncomfortable in certain kinds of situations. So anytime any of those kinds of situations come up, you automatically feel uncomfortable. That's your karma. But you can change it. Ta-da! The only question is, can you remember you've got a choice? Can you remember to really take a look at what you're doing so that you do have a real choice? So when the situation comes up and you call it an uncomfortable situation, aha, I just called that situation uncomfortable. And the
Those mind
situation.
moments can be very, very quick.
Mm-hmm. Old habits follow old processes. This happens in all kinds of places. Learning a new skill. An example of that was when I was a little kid. I wanted to learn to use the sewing machine because my mom, she did a lot of sewing. And I couldn't do it until she showed me how to hold the cloth and to make sure that it's going under the thing so that it doesn't bunch up and jump around. To learn to put constant pressure on it. The same thing is true about automobile mechanics. Most kids now are not good mechanics on their cars. When I was in South Carolina, wow, you didn't want to go to a dealer. Those guys would rip you off and they were so expensive. And so we learned to work on our own cars. But that was a skill that we had to be developed. I remember I ruined an engine because I didn't know what I was doing when I took it apart. So this is the point then, is that we have to keep practicing in order to develop the skill of sati. We have to keep practicing in order to develop the skill of observation, of looking, of investigation, inspection. And we have to keep practicing in order to develop the skill of right effort. And the outcome of the development of the skill of right effort is it's really easy. It's easy to make the change. But in the beginning, it's hard because we're bound up by that karma. So in the beginning, right noble effort is effort. And as you progress, it begins to get easier and easier because you've got the skill. An example of that is pushing a car off, that if the car is sitting still, getting it to move takes 2 or 3 or 4 teenagers. But once that car is moving and rolling at 1 or 2 miles an hour, pushing it along at walking speed is easy. Another example of that would be a child in a swing. Oh, put me on the swing and swing me, Daddy. Yeah, that first couple of swings is hard. But as the momentum of the swing keeps going, now it's really easy. And then it's easy again. And the swing comes back and it's easy to push again. But if you let the swing stop and go back to ground zero or back to the gravity, now it's hard to get it started again. That's one of the reasons why we want to tell students that you got to keep practicing. Just because you've gotten that swing going doesn't mean now it's time to stop. You got to keep pushing, but the effort that it takes to push is easy effort. But if you stop pushing altogether, then everything's going to fall apart and you have to push really hard to get it going again. So that's the quality of the skill of right effort is that you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep remembering. You got to keep looking and keep pushing.
Rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm. So you think you can do that?
Yeah, definitely.
I think so too. All right. Well, why don't we finish this conversation and let you go do it? Keep pushing with right effort. Keep remembering that you got to do it. Callum, I've really enjoyed this call. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I think next time, maybe we said a while ago we were going to talk about dependent origination.
Yes.
I don't think
You asked me about it, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, well, we'll see you.
Thanks, Dhammarato.